first episode, we built this mountain. In the 2 streams after, we added this castle on top. And now it's time for part 3. Welcome back everyone to creative mode, where every episode we pick a random build theme suggested by you guys in the comments, and we add it to this world which is already absolutely massive. So let's see what we're building for episode 3. We have a total of 25 topics to pick from, and it is going to be a volcanic chasm. This one's gonna be interesting. Okay, so the first question is, where are we going to put this? Because it kind of doesn't fit in. Like, it can't really go down here because it's way too close to this river and everything. It's way too close to the flat land. And I feel like the flat land doesn't really make sense for there to be a huge chasm in the middle. So then the second possibility is up here near the castle, but why would they build a castle next to a volcanic chasm? Okay, looks like we're going to need to go with option 3, which is we're adding more terrain. Although that still doesn't answer the question of where. Okay, you know what? I think I have picked out the location, and it's gonna go over here. And there's a reason why I've picked this spot. So, of course, in this world, we're going to end up with a lot of different areas. As I've already said, there's like the flat land down there, and then there's the higher up regions here. And over in this corner, we have a mountain. Now, mountains, they don't just form out of nowhere. And if you remember from episode 1, this mountain range was inspired by the Scottish Highlands. So we're not really just talking about individual mountains here, we're talking about a mountain range. And for a mountain range to form, you're going to expect a lot of tectonic activity. And with tectonic activity comes lava and volcanoes and basically everything deadly. So that is why I think over here is the perfect region. The thing is, I'm gonna need to work on terrain a lot, because somehow we're going to need to get from this nice lush green untouched area, completely perfect, to a very sort of harsh environment filled with a lot of volcanic activity. Let's see how this goes. Okay, so I think what I want to do in this situation is take this sort of mountain here, this peak, and maybe have it as like the first one sort of going off in a row that way, because I think firstly that would give us the opportunity to then have a huge area of land here that's still possible, and also can give us a smoother gradient up, which you would sort of expect at the bottom of these mountain ranges. You would expect a smoother gradient near the start. But also what it means is we can sort of define our own area over here, which I think we can give the more dangerous properties. And given some of the ideas that you guys already have on the list, it could be a good way to set up for those if they're ever picked. Though of course that is just entirely relying on hope. Okay, so let's start out by planning this out with a really thick sort of brush that we can bring over in a line. This is going to be rough planning, but as I said, I kind of want to bring it this way. And then I think for the volcanic chasms, I kind of want it sloping down when it gets over here, actually. Although I'm not entirely sure. Either way, we're also going to sort of start bringing a line out from this end. And you know what? Actually, instead of that line sort of going out at a similar angle, what I might do instead is actually sort of start it coming out at a much sharper angle over this way. Because what I think could be cool is maybe in future, once these mountains are in, we can sort of have a valley going this way. And that valley would actually be a really good sort of way of explaining how people get up to this castle. So here we go. We can actually link some of the builds together. So yeah, I think really we actually sort of want the mountains to be covering this sort of area. Although I think I'm also going to get a brush that allows me to quickly remove some of this red wool planning. And this one should really only be masking air, because I've just cut a hole in the ground. Okay, so maybe to give it a bit wider of an entrance, you know what? I think I'll take this line that I put here, but I'll actually just curve it this way around here. There we go. I think this wider area sort of makes more sense for a path that, like, I don't know, you would sort of expect an army coming up here, maybe? It sort of depends on what the purpose of this castle is. Because it could be a military outpost, or it could just be, like, a nice fancy place to live. I'll let you guys come up with your reasoning for that, because really, we should be focusing on the volcanic chasm. So let's sort of bring... oh gosh. So let's let's sort of bring this terrain out here. You know what could be cool? So maybe if we sort of have like a mountain here, not maybe like the tallest one or the sharpest one or anything, but if this at least comes up to some sort of peak up here, sort of like coming around in this direction. Firstly, it gives us a way of cutting off this grass around here, but it also means that we can sort of slowly introduce more and more height into this terrain here, adding more and more separate peaks, and eventually I think it would be cool if we could have it lead into some sort of like actual volcano, one that's still active. That is a really cool idea. We're probably gonna do that like somewhere over here probably. As I said, mountain ranges form on tectonic activity, and that does mean volcanoes. Okay, we're gonna need to do some really cool planning here, and I think that's going to start by planning out the base of this volcano. And you can see that this world is already getting massive because that is all now fading out of view. That is 32 chunks away. I'm at maximum render distance, and this is only episode 3. Okay, but basically I've just got to come around with this line and connect it up to there somehow. Okay, I'm actually so far away that my brush won't even work. There we go. We're missing our target by a little bit. Let's just continue looping it round though. Okay, this is the outer edge that I have defined. This whole area could literally fit everything we have built so far. Just this red outline could fit everything. That includes the mountain, that includes the flatlands down there, that includes the castle. Oh, wrong button. The castle. Everything. Episode 3 is really shaping up to be a huge build. Okay, so with this outer edge defined, you might think we can sort of get to the fun part now. The fun part being like actually making this mountain. No, I have to fill in this area. Like, I have to take this entire area within the red wool and fill it in. Just like we did over there to get the terrain higher. Basically, all of this terraforming needs a platform to sit on. And that platform is what I've got to make now. So, yeah, let's get to that. Let's find something to watch whilst I do this. Okay, let's just save ourselves a little time. That was so much quicker than it would have been otherwise. I still need to go and get these smaller areas though. Okay, this should be the last bit, and that is it. There we go. This entire area has been filled in. And you might be thinking, oh, but I can see gaps and everything. Well, kind of. So those gaps are in height, but if you actually look at it from above, it's all filled in. It's just that these bits down here, they're lower down, so it looks like there's a space here. But in the end, all of that is going to get filled in. The next thing that I need to do is somehow turn this into a volcano. Like, I've got to do a lot of terraforming. More terraforming than I think I have ever done in my life, because before this project it was this mountain that was the biggest terraforming project I have ever done, and this mountain can fit inside the other area. So yeah. Now, if you remember, back in episode 1, I did go through how I made this entire mountain, and we're essentially going to do the exact same process. Except this time, instead of using brush widths like 3 or 5, we're going to be going up to like 20 and maybe 5 tall, which is going to come out to cylinders like that. We are working on a much larger scale, and it means that every single time I use one of these brushes wrong, we're going to get a massive lag spike. I should not have done that. I really should not have done that. Like, I know I was doing it for the sake of an example, but I should not have done that. I'm just gonna have to sit here and wait this out. Okay, there we go. It fixed itself. So now it's time to actually get the shape of these mountains forming. And I do kind of have a technique for this, where essentially, whilst I am still using cylinders to plan a lot of this out, another good technique is to get the rough shape of these mountains using cubes. So, for example, if I put a cube there, oh gosh, it's all gonna pile down underneath. If I just look down here, how much falling sand? Oh god. We're just gonna ignore that for now. But basically, what you can do, if you have a lot of cubes, oh gosh, nothing's processing. I can't place anything down. I think I have crashed my game. Have I crashed? Oh no! Been a few minutes now, and the game hasn't really progressed. That was the first frame of movement in like 2 minutes. I think I've crashed. I've got the little spinning blue death circle. Okay, you know what? I think I'm gonna force crash the game. It's been around 5 minutes. Okay, let's see. Can I even load into the world? That's not good. Okay, I've got an idea. So I force crashed the game again. What if I just bring down my render distance and that's shadow distance? If I just bring down my render distance and simulation distance and then try loading the world, how is this gonna go? I'm holding down S just to try and move backwards away from it. Okay, I'm here. There's quicker processing, but none of the chunks are loading. Let's see, if I just try and slowly move over... Okay, frame rate drop immediately. What if I try moving at it backwards? Did that work? Has that worked? There's shadows again. My game seems to be processing stuff over here. Oh, we got some chunks back. I should not have increased render distance. And I've frozen the game again. Can I kill the sand entities if I do kill at E? Did that say 33,000? Oh my god. I mean... the world's back, it seems. Am I able to fly over here and not die? Oh, maybe not. Maybe I can't. Oh, God. Okay, so I can move. I just can't look that way. Okay, so just whilst I am at least able to get into the world, what I was going to say is a much easier way to carve out the mountains is basically to do a very simplistic shape using these cubes. And then once you have a shape that you sort of like the look of, that is when you can then go over it using these sort of brush cylinders. Essentially, the cubes make a very nice and very quick way of smoothly filling in a large area. And then you can roughen it up using the cylinder brushes, whilst also putting a bit more detail in. And I just need to do that on a 10 times larger scale. Now let's see, can I load in the chunks? Maybe? Potentially? Am I back? Nope. Oh my god, another 20,000. Are you serious? I'm just gonna have to keep going over there and then running that kill command. It has now been around 20 minutes since I first froze the game. Are we back? Is everything done? I think we are. Okay, lesson learned. Maybe leave the larger brushes until later. But you get my point now. Basically, we're going to use the larger cubes to sort of get a rough shape of what we want. And then we're going to go over it with the cylinders. And also, just like before, we're going to use the larger cylinders before we then go down to even smaller ones and smaller until you eventually get as much detail as you want. So I'll see you once I have done all of that. And hopefully haven't crashed my game even more. Okay, there we go. So I've filled most of this in now with a lot of sand. There are like 20 layers here. On the bright side though, it does now mean that there is enough room to fill in these cubes of sand. So progress on this mountain can go a lot faster. So let's get to that. I'm watching this cuboid just break away and like it's very fun to watch. Unfortunately, I've got to kill all of the sand. That is 60,000 entities. Okay, I think finally, after several hours, we actually have some sort of shape here. And this is the issue. You might be able to see it here. There is like no depth perception on these cubes. Like if I just hang around here, you can see all of this is just the same color. I can't see how low down any of that is. It's only really once you actually move and you get the different shading down the sides that you actually realize there's a lot of variation in height here. And that makes it really difficult to plan this stuff out because it is just so hard to actually see what I'm looking at. Like if I'm sitting here and I just like use this brush even once, I have no idea what height that's gonna be at. But as you can see, we are now significantly higher than the rest of the world. That peak over there, it's around 1 or 2 blocks above the clouds in the end. This peak is like probably around 20 blocks above the clouds. However, this peak up here, which is the one that we're going to turn into a volcano, this is so high up. And again, just commenting on the scale of this world, the castle is fading out of view. You can't even see the other mountain peak that's on the other side there. There, with the flag. It is episode 3, and this world is insane. But we're not done. We only have a basic shape carved out right now, and even that still needs a bit of work on that side. So, as I said before, we are going to... Why is my game just frozen? So, as I said before, now that we have this area carved out with cubes, it's time to go over it with more detail. Meaning that we are going to start going over it with these smaller little cylinders of sand here. However, I think a good idea here, because of how high up this is, these cylinders are actually going to be quite tall. Because the thing is, they're not actually that wide, so it shouldn't cause too much lag as I'm using them. But it's going to mean that we can sort of cover these larger distances up in a much shorter time, and then we can go over it with a shorter brush later. But yeah, essentially, this entire thing is just sort of scaling down the brushes until you get the detail you want. So for now, we're still in the sort of fairly large brushes, but it's not too large that it's going to cause lag. So yeah, now we're just going to need to smooth this out a bit. Although, is it just me that has the opinion that like cubic terrain actually looks quite cool? Obviously, I'm not keeping it like this. This doesn't look right at all. But like if you had a world that you wanted to look a bit sort of like retro or something, or have some really simplistic terrain, I think the cubes actually look quite good. Anyway though, back to this. And this is gonna take a long time. Okay, it has been 4 hours now. That is right, 4 hours, which is basically my entire recording window for today. And you know what? Like, it's pretty decent progress. I have another 4 hours to record tomorrow, but essentially what I need to do is just like finish off this side of the mountain, which is taking a long time, and then most of it actually comes down to texturing, which is a thing we'll cover later in the video or tomorrow for me. For now though, I'm gonna take a break. I hate these large projects, man. Why do I do them? Oh my god, it has been several hours and it still looks awful. I'm gonna go and just take a break in here. Okay. Sometimes you start a project, and you think it's a good project. Like, you think this is gonna be the best thing that I have ever made. It's gonna look so cool. And then you hate it. And that is how I currently feel about this build. I have been terraforming this, if you can even call it terraforming, for what is around 6 hours now. And you know, like, I spent a lot of time over here, over by the actual sort of main volcano. I was like, okay, some of this terrain, it's not that great, but like once we use the smooth tool on it and everything, it'll be fine. Stuff like this, it's not brilliant, but once it's smoothed out, it might look quite good. And then I turn around and I fly back over here and I see where I started with this. And this looks awful. This is not good in the slightest at all. And it's also not smooth at all. There's so many just drops down like 50 blocks into the ground. And there's some points where I haven't even really terraformed. That's just one of the cubes. Or like over here, this area has had absolutely nothing done. Why is there a hole there? So I'm not liking this. I'm really not liking it at all. But I'm stuck on how to fix it. Because terraforming, it's not easy, and especially when you're working with sand and stuff, because you can't really undo stuff with sand. How has that happened? So the thing is, normally with World Edit, when you're working, you can place down something like that, and then if you don't like it, you just do //undo. Sand doesn't always work like that, because World Edit only undoes the little area that it should have affected. It doesn't take into account the fact that some blocks are going to fall. So if I use that same brush over here, you can see a lot of that sand has just fallen, and if I do undo on that, It's only gonna reduce the stuff that stayed in place. Essentially meaning, when I work on a large project like this, if I screw something up, I can't really undo it. Even if I can undo most of it, there's still gonna be damage. And that is kind of why I don't know how to fix this. I don't know if there's like a technique I should use or a specific method that normally most people do for this that works. I absolutely have no clue. So I'm gonna try something. And that something is a very well-tested method, and I find that it sometimes works quite well. I'm gonna wing it. I'm gonna run what could be one of the most dangerous commands to run in this situation, and I'm gonna hope it works. This is an absolutely stupid decision. We're gonna bring that back up. Prepare to kill my PC in 3, 2, 1, and now we wait. We wait for the game to process this entire mountain of sand. That is a lot of blocks. My PC's gonna die. Like, I stressed it out before when I ran the command on that mountain down there. That entire area down there that we originally worked on, that covers maybe this one small peak here. That's how much land that's equivalent to. And we're processing something that's like around 8 times larger at least. Oh gosh. Oh gosh. Yep. Frames are struggling. Frames are struggling, but it's doing something. All of this terrain is smoothing out. I just sort of need to load in the chunks a bit more. Oh my god, this area is an absolute mess. I mean, it's still a mess, but it's okay. We have an absolutely massive crack between the two parts of the world that we've made, but it's not looking that bad. It's definitely not brilliant. Like, stuff like down here, this really could look a lot better. But, like, as you get further up here, this isn't that bad. What about, like, right on top? This is sort of where I'm concerned. Okay, so, like, some of this could be smoothed out, but, like, it worked. This is looking much better than it did before. The thing is, I'm tempted to run that command again. So essentially, I'm tempted to smooth out the already smoothed out terrain. The new Smooth Plus. But the thing is, running these commands is a really dangerous game. Because crashing the game normally, it's fine. Like, the world is unlikely to corrupt. It's normally fine if you crash. You just sort of need to redo all of the commands for your brushes. I'm talking about, like, the world edit brushes there. Crashing the game with the smooth command is dangerous. Because the thing is, like, even though you crash the game, you have still smoothed out the terrain. So when you load the world back in, it will be smoothed out. The problem is, if you don't like that new terrain, you can't undo it. The world closed down. Whatever commands you ran last time are completely gone. Meaning you cannot undo that smooth command. If you run it and then you actually preferred what it looked like before, you're stuck with whatever it is now. And that is why I'm nervous to run the command again, because I can deal with this. I could use this. But if it looks worse, I don't think I'm going to want to. Screw it. Let's just sit back and watch the chaos. That's less blocks than before. The main area that I'm worried about is the stuff down here. This is incredibly rough terrain. It doesn't really feel that natural. And there we go. The game's frozen, sort of. It's processing. Stuff's happening at 2 frames a second. That terrain is indeed smoothing out. How does it look? You know what? It looks fine. Yeah, you know what? This seems perfectly fine. Oh, maybe with a few sort of broken patches there. Oh my god, is that a hole all the way through? Whoa. Oh. Whoa. This is not what I expected as a result of the command. I mean, it's a really cool effect. It's just not what we wanted. That does look really awesome, though. The good news is, though, mostly it appears fine. It's just a few areas like this where it's managed to pierce through the ground. But other than that, it's actually good. Again, it's not perfect. But for what we need, I think it's fine. I think after what's around 6 hours now, I can stop terraforming. I think I can finally actually start on what we're supposed to be doing, which is a volcanic chasm. So that means I need a volcano, which we now have. Well, kind of. We have the mountain that the volcano is sort of going to be on. The thing is, this is currently just a flat bit of terrain. This doesn't look very volcanic. So how are we going to make this volcanic? Well, so the thing is, volcanoes, they're not really as extreme as you think. They're not always just spewing out lava. The majority of the time, they just kind of look like a mountain. However, there is one thing that I can find on a decent few examples of volcanoes, and that is kind of like ridges going down the edge. So it's not all smooth terrain like this. You would have like an entire sort of little mini valley carved out down here. I don't know if that's all volcanoes, but like it's a decent few. And I think that's how we're gonna get our chasm. We're gonna have those ridges down the edge. The question is, how do I make those? I think it's not actually gonna be that difficult. We're just gonna use brushes again. Man, I said I was done terraforming. But if I set a brush like that, I can sort of just carve out a ridge here. Let's see, like, how does this look? I mean, I hope it looks good, because if it doesn't, then I've got a really big problem. I can't undo that command. But, like, if I just sort of do these somewhat regularly around the mountain, let's see, I don't feel the most confident about this, but, like, I haven't felt confident about this build in any way. None of this has felt like my best build ever. Definitely been the largest, though. And you know what? It's actually somewhat of a really nice opportunity to use these pits down here that formed. Like, it's kind of a really good way of ending the lava tunnels. Let's see, though. We've just kind of got to keep doing this around it. Okay, I have a few ridges or chasms or whatever you really want to call them. The next thing that we need to add is a thing called a caldera. And you might be wondering, what is a caldera? Well, of course, when you have an explosion, you leave a crater. This is what a caldera is. A caldera is basically just the crater left behind after the volcano has erupted. Because when you think about it, an eruption kind of is just a really large explosion. So whilst I could just go and pile up a bunch of TNT here and explode it, and maybe it would look good, I think it's a bit unsafe. And it could end up blowing up a bit more of the mountain than we hoped. So it might just be safest to carve it out. Actually, you know what? Never mind. Ooh. I mean, it works. I've got a crater. It doesn't quite look large enough, though. What if I put one there? Oh, gosh. That was a bad decision. Oh, we are playing with literal fire here. Let's try another one. This is bad. This was a bad decision. Oh, gosh. Okay, we're gonna try some slightly smaller ones. Let's try one there. And maybe one there. And I think one final one just there. We just made a firework. Okay, but you know what? It worked. And what I think I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take these ridges that we formed and I'm actually gonna link them up to the caldera. And you know what? That's kind of given us our little chasm here. Look at that. And there's another one just over here. Then we're gonna end up with a third one over here, which I think is gonna be the biggest. Yeah, I think I was right. That one is definitely the largest. So I'd say we've kind of banked in the topic here. We have definitely got some volcanic chasms, except they're just not volcanic yet. They are currently just chasms. Such a weird word, chasm. So you know what? I think I'm gonna take this one though, because it's a bit high up, and I am just gonna lower it down a bit. Because the thing is, lava doesn't come all the way up to the top. Like, when you have a volcano, the lava isn't all the way up here. It's actually more just kind of like down in the bottom of the caldera. It's right down here at the bottom of the pit. So these sort of chasms here are actually going to define the highest point that the lava can be. Because Because the thing is, if I brought the lava all the way up here, but the chasm's down there, it's just gonna look like all of this should really be flowing out of the side here. So I need to be careful with how I lay this all out. And in fact, there's another little sort of chasm here that I missed. And is this one now the largest? No, I think this one is still a bit bigger. But this one, I think, is the lowest down. Yeah, it definitely is. So the question is, do I raise this one up or do I bring the rest of them down? I think a mix of both. Because like this one up here, it's a bit high, but like that one, it's a bit too low. Okay, there we go. I think it's all at a pretty good height. So now I really should be thinking about texturing this. The thing is, I'm kind of not sure how to do that because a lot of this texturing would reasonably depend on like where the lava is. Because of course I could put a lot of stuff like sort of grass and nice greenery around it, but like that would all get burnt. So I can't have any of that stuff near the lava. So really, the first thing I actually need to do is work out where this lava is going. However, I'm not going to immediately put lava here, mainly because it's dangerous and it's really slow. I think what I am going to do to sort of work this out is actually the same sort of technique that we used on the river over there. The way that we worked out where the river went is we poured a bucket of water down it and we sort of saw where it flowed. And then to sort of widen it out a bit, we would replace it all with ice and then replace the ice with water again, which would turn it all into source blocks. Essentially making it wider and letting it flow a bit more. So we just sort of keep doing that until it eventually reaches a point that we like. So let's see how that looks. That's gonna start flowing down there. Okay. And it's getting quite far and I do sort of like how thin it is. You gotta remember, as lava comes out, it's gonna cool down very quick because essentially you're taking it from the hottest environment on the planet pretty much to the open air, which is very high up on top of a mountain. So it's going to immediately start cooling down quite a lot. So really, you're not going to expect a great big flowing river of lava. You're going to expect very thin streams unless the volcano is actually erupting. Then you have a pretty constant source of hot lava. There we go. So it's sort of reached the bottom and I think that's good. Now I just repeat that for every other one. This is gonna take a while. Okay, this area sort of spilled over a little bit. I don't want that. Okay, that should be fine now. Just gonna sort of tidy this area up a bit. Or actually, maybe it would be good if it was flowing through there. Okay, that's number 2 done. Okay, that is all of the different sort of chasms done now, I think. As you can see, there aren't too many, but there are at least a few. Next up, we need to do some texturing, but I'm not talking about texturing the whole mountain. Instead, I'm talking about texturing the areas around where this lava is. Because really, this is sort of where you would expect a lot of it to be burnt. So around here, we're gonna want some like really dark sort of textures. We're gonna probably want like black stone or something, maybe a lot of deep slate. We could even bring in stuff like black concrete powder. So if I go with maybe like 50% black stone, then I think maybe like 25% cobbled deep slate, 10% black concrete powder, and then maybe 15% cracked deep slate tiles. Let's see, what does that look like? Yeah, that's quite good. So then if we just make that mask sand, we can sort of like texture around the outside of all of this area. Everywhere you would expect this burnt texture. Although, actually, I probably should leave that until I've worked out how high the lava goes in here. Okay, let's do that. So the highest point on this one is here. Highest point on that one is here. This one is around this height. This one is still all the way down there. This one's a little bit above it. Okay, so the highest one is that one. So essentially, we need to make the lava come up to this height here. Brush, cylinder, redstone block. We're gonna make that 6 wide, 1 tall, and it's going to mask sand. There we go. No, wait, no, it's gonna mask air before I ruin that command. Right, okay, and then Yep, there we go. This should work. Essentially, we're just gonna sort of do this to get the right height. That is really high above this bit, actually. But we can just sort of do that. There we go. And now I need to work out this sort of area. I think just reduce down that brush size, and then we can slowly sort of bring it down from there. And we sort of just need to do the same here. We basically just need to bring it down to the correct height, not like that. Okay, I think that is now everything connected. And seeing as the whole area is currently still set around the entire mountain, I think I can just do that command there, and hopefully that will replace all of this. Although I have just realized that's going to check this entire mountain range. Luckily, though, didn't cause too much lag. Okay, cool. So now we're going to go around and texture all of this. And around the actual caldera itself, we're going to make a lot more of this burnt, because there's going to be a lot more activity in this small area. Plus, you got to remember, this area is actually where it all explodes out of the top. So there's going to be a lot more damage done to this area than anywhere else on the mountain, really. And the other thing we can do, we can actually have this sort of texture trail a bit further than the lava itself. Basically implying like the lava originally did get that far, but now it's sort of solidified, and it's sort of created a little sort of area here for it to all stop. I have no idea if that explanation made sense. Okay, there we go. I think finally, after what was a much longer time than I thought, we have all of the black stone and deep slate and all of the burnt stuff. So the question is now, what's next? Like, my assumption is texturing the mountain, but also I've realized a problem. So when running the command to replace stuff with water or lava, it replaces it with a source block. So right here, this is flowing. This isn't gonna flow any further than it already is. But as soon as I replace that with lava, it's gonna replace this flowing block with a source block, and that source block is then gonna spread one block further. And that doesn't sound bad at first. Like, it's only one block, but then you think about the fact that this block could flow one block further, or this block, or this one, or this one. And if this one flows further, it's gonna flow down the mountain. So whilst I am still going to run this command, I'm just keeping in mind the fact that I might ruin a lot of this build. Like, this could go everywhere. Oh well, let's see. Okay, right, immediately it is doing exactly what I thought. And how far is this oh, that is going far. That is going really far. Okay. I can't even undo this command now. Because if I hit undo, just like how a lot of the falling sand doesn't go, that means that all of this flowing lava isn't going to go either. And then there's going to be water and lava together. And you know what that does? We would essentially lava cast this build. So how do I fix this? Because this has just gone from a very minor sort of thing into a big problem. Okay, it seems fine over here, although there's a lot more lava there now. Oh gosh. Okay. I mean, it's fixable. I can definitely fix it. It just might take a little bit of time. This one's fine. This one is a big problem. This is definitely a concern. Okay, let's try brush set sphere air, and we're gonna make it mask lava. And what I can do, I can sort of go around and I can remove some of this lava, which is gonna be a bit problematic, but hopefully can also sort of dry off some of these areas, I guess. And I'll get a lava bucket just so I can manually fix a few things. But for stuff like this, we're essentially gonna go down the edge and just remove all of that. All of that there. Come on, get out the way. I'm doing a little cleanup operation here. Okay, there we go. That actually worked quite well, just to clear up the lava. Let's do that on all of the others. Okay, on this side, it is mostly fine, although just like I want to clear up areas like that where there's too many source blocks. This is flowing out. Okay, I think that one's mostly fine. I might remove some of it here. This is why you think stuff through before you run commands, really. Any issues on this one? This one's mostly fine, actually. This one's causing a few problems. Okay, there we are. I think that is all fixed. I think I would have preferred the thinner trails, but there's not really anything I can do about that now, although there is some packed ice left there. Let's just quickly replace that. Okay, so now I think finally we can actually texture this volcano. And I know I was talking a lot about how, like, you wouldn't expect too much greenery here. That's kind of a lie. So obviously you wouldn't expect too much greenery around the top here. I mean, like, it's really high. It's gonna be really high up as well. So like the same way where you're not seeing greenery on top of that peak over there, you're not gonna see it up here, which is way higher. Plus this area occasionally explodes. Not often, but like, you know, just principle of it. However, when you come further down here towards the base of the mountain, you actually would expect greenery. Because if you didn't know, volcanoes are a really good source of very fertile soil. Basically meaning it's really easy for plants to grow here. This is actually why you end up with cities like Pompeii in the past and stuff. It's because it was really easy to grow crops around the base of a volcano. Because the crops were in extremely fertile soil. So around the base of this mountain, yeah, we are going to expect some grass. Plus, I might see if I can do this mountain in a different gradient to the rest of this place. So obviously you have these mountains over here, and these are really dark. That's like the darkest possible sort of mountain texture you can get. However, this one, I think it's far enough away. Plus, like, if I put a lot of greenery here, we can have a divide. I want to do it with a lighter stone. I don't know, I feel like a lighter texture is just going to work better around this sort of thing. So I'm gonna see if we can come up with a gradient for that. And I think something like this might work. This is a big gradient, but it's for a very big build, so I feel it makes sense. So as you can see, we are going to start down at the bottom with the same sort of textures that we used down there. It's literally the same blocks. Although I don't think I actually used solid concrete down there. Then we are going to transition it into coarse dirt and a bunch of brown blocks like this, although this is actually grey and black terracotta, which is going to smoothly transition us into black stone and smooth basalt. A lot of these dark blocks, some of which were used in that texture, so it's not going to be immediately a really brightly coloured mountain. Like, it is still fairly dark. However, as we come further up to the top, we get stuff like turf, cobblestone, and normal stone. So as we come up, we are going to transition to a lot of these lighter blocks, and eventually we finish it off with andesite, which I feel is the lightest sort of stone color you can get. So as you can see though, from back here, like, a lot of that is still fairly dark. It's not too bright. So I'm hoping that since that's still a fairly dark gradient with a lot of it, it's going to sort of match with that. That is really just my biggest hope. I just need to hope that it's not going to clash too much. Because if it does, then I've got a few issues and I'm not entirely sure how to fix it. One of those issues is how I'm going to sort of transition from that mountain there, which is very dark, as you can see right there, and I have to bring that into this. I don't know how I'm going to do that. I think maybe just the same sort of thing that I'm gonna do over there. Just put a bit of greenery here. Oh no. Oh, that is bad. Oh no. Oh, that is so bad. This is bad. Oh no. I'm not gonna sort that out right now. That can stay like that for a bit. I'm ignoring my problems. Oh gosh. That is a very bad situation. I'm just not gonna deal with that right now. What I am going to deal with is this wonderful mountain that we now have over here. So after all of this time, it's time that we actually, you know, texture this. Let's see how this goes. That is big. This is a big build. Like, genuinely, I think it does technically count as the largest build I have ever made. And I mean, it's not done. Like, there is still more that I want to work on, but like, I just need to emphasize again that like, this entire area here, the thing that took a video and 2 live streams to finish, this could fit inside that. And, like, if you rotated it again, you could probably fit another one there. You could probably fit 2 of this inside this. This is a very large project, and I'm done painting it, at least for now. As you can see, I have a lot of different brushes here. I started with a wooden shovel, went through all the shovels, went through all the pickaxes, skipped the axes just because the axes are a bit different in World Edit. They're kind of important. And I ended up on a diamond hoe. There are 17 different brushes to get this entire mountain painted. I don't know why I keep calling it a mountain. It's a volcano, but like, just take a look at this thing. It's cool. I do realize I haven't painted over there. That's kind of because I don't know what's gonna go over there. This corner is likely going to be connected to other terrain in future, so I don't know whether I should paint it now. I probably should, but I just won't. It's probably gonna get connected to like another mountain here or something. Like, it's unnecessary. But just like, take a look at it. Look at the amount of different blocks in this. Look at the amazing blending of how it goes from like that sort of nice grass there to a slightly darker grass with the concrete into brown, into black, into like a very dark grey. And it just comes all the way up, even going into a lighter grey up here as we reach the top of it. It's just insane. And it all works. That is, I think, what I find most insane about this. The fact that, like, somehow we have managed to connect a massive volcano to everything else that's been built. And it's also a bit concerning thinking about how, like, in future, this is gonna have to connect to everything else as well. It's like, whatever terrain ends up here, or over there, or over in that side, like, it all has to connect. Anyway, though, moving on, rather than sitting here gushing about terrain and everything, there, I think, is one thing that we are finally missing in this. And you can probably tell what it is. When you have a huge amount of lava and magma and everything like that around here, I should have used magma blocks here. Okay, ignoring that. When you have all of this hot material and everything, what's one thing you expect? Because I think I know what I would expect. I would expect a lot of smoke and steam and everything like that. And that's currently what we're missing. All of this is here and this heat just is non-existent. So we're going to try and add this, and I'm not entirely sure how much room we have. We are at 317 blocks. That gives us like less than 50 blocks until the sky limit. So we've got an interesting sort of thing to work with here. But I think we can work with it, and just like always, we are going to start by using World Edit. So I think if I do brush set cuboid red wool, seen as fire spreads off now, we'll give it a width of 3, and that didn't work. I put the number in the wrong place. Okay, and what we're going to do, we're going to make it mask air so it doesn't mess with stuff. Let's plan this out. So I think it should... Okay, the commands really break when you get up to this sort of height. I think I want it to essentially be blowing over this way. Oh my gosh, that's the sky limit. That is not a lot of room. This is basically nothing. Oh, how do I deal with this? I don't know. I'll find a way. But essentially, I sort of want it to blow over this way, I think. And you might be thinking, why this way? Well, it's because if we just take a look at the flag down in the castle, it's blowing that way. The wind is traveling in this direction. So it makes sense for all of the smoke to be blowing this way. Anyway, I'm going to try and work out how to do this smoke. I think the first thing we're going to do, we're going to change this to a sphere now. It's going to be nice and puffy. There we go. And I'm also going to try and basically thicken it up by going down. Since we can't go up, we kind of need to make it look like this smoke is expanding by going downwards. Not necessarily logical, but it's kind of the only thing we can do. So really, we've just got to puff all of this up. Okay, I think around this distance, I can sort of start trailing it off. There's no need for it to get out this far, really. Like, I think the point of there being smoke here is made by this distance. Like, you get the point. It's producing a lot of heat. Let's just fill in all of the gaps here. Okay, we're gonna up it to a larger brush now. World Edit is really struggling to detect where I'm clicking for some reason. Okay, that sort of shape is good enough. And now I need to texture this. And I don't know how I'm gonna do that. I think what would be good is starting out dark and then moving towards light. That seems like the best option. So I'll have to work that out. We're done! That is right, we're done. As you can see, I have put in the sort of smoke here. I will admit it's not the best gradient, but like, smoke has never really been my thing. Also, if you can't tell, I am ill now. Yeah, this isn't being recorded on the same day as the rest. I'm ill. Trust me, I'm not happy about it either. But as you can see, we are now done with this build. I will admit it might be stretching the theme a little bit. I mean, like, the theme was volcanic chasm. We haven't really got many chasms other than like these little bits, but I feel like the scale and like complexity of this build sort of justifies not entirely sticking to the theme. So like, yeah, this is the only chasm and everything, but like, you've now got an entire volcano. So I'm gonna say that this fits. Also, for anyone wondering, the river's kind of in process of being fixed, but like, it's got a few issues. I'll work it out after the video. But yeah, so the build that we have done, it's finally complete. This is massive. Like, this definitely goes up there as the largest project I have ever done in Minecraft, and I am proud of it. I think it could definitely be better, but for the fact that I had to work on this over a couple days, like, I am really proud of it. And looking at it in shaders as well is also just really cool. I love that glow on the lava. I think, like, the gradient on the smoke could definitely be improved, but, like, the gradient on the actual mountain itself, I love that sort of texture. I think this came out really well, and you can just see it on the world map as well, and look how impressive that is. So yeah, I really like this build, and I really hope that you guys do as well. And on that note, if there are any build ideas that you have that you hope you can see in a future episode, leave it in the comments, and hopefully I will see you when it gets built.